suspects and the crimes they've been accused of are not being made public for reasons, apparently, of national security. Well, let's speak to Yasmine Ahmed, who's Director of Rights Watch. Is this the right thing to do?
I think the first thing to say, and first of all, thank you for having me on the programme tonight, is to say that this is really about open and transparent justice. And it's something that we as the United Kingdom really need to think about whether we're willing to forgo such an important human right. What is one of the most amazing points is that it's now 799 years ago, actually one day prior to the trial starting, when the Magna Carta was signed by the King of England. And to think now, 799 years later, fundamental erosions to open and transparent justice are happening is incredibly important, and one which I think that we as the United Kingdom, the Parliament and the public need to have an open and transparent debate about. I would say that it's incredibly important that we think about whether an entire trial needs to be in secret. And as you noted, this is not just the trial, it's what the people are accused of, and potentially any outcome of the trial as well. So whether it's necessary to have such extensive secrecy around a criminal trial, which is actually about the deprivation of someone's liberty, is an incredibly important point that we need to think about. If we think about...
Okay, but life has got a bit more complicated in the few hundred years since the Magna Carta, hasn't it? And the government says this needs to be held in secret. Are you saying they're lying?
Well, what we need to be asking the government is to have proper and adequate justifications for why it needs to happen. There were 44...
Well, I tell you what they're saying, just because we have so little time to discuss this. They say that apparently that if this information about who the accused are, or indeed the deeds they are accused of, became public, the trial would fail. Justice would not be served. That seems to be the argument they offer. The
question that I would ask back to the government is why it has been that there have been numerous, for example, 44 terrorism trials in 2013 where this was not necessary. Why there have been precedents where, yes, some aspects of the trials have been enclosed in camera, but it has never, ever, to this date, been necessary to have an entire trial enclosed, to have every fact about the trial withheld from the public and the press. That is the question, is yes, we accept as a human rights community there are situations where aspects of the trial may need to be enclosed for national security reasons, but a justification needs to happen as to why the entire trial, including any...
But isn't it just an extrapolation of that same principle? If we say, and we as members of the press accept on some circumstances, you cannot report this, you cannot say that, that's part of the rules by which we agree to abide. If the government are saying in this particular case, it is an extraordinary case in the most literal sense, you cannot report anything, we don't want you in the room, why should we not have faith in them that they are genuine in making those arrangements?
Well, I think that's a question that we need to ask ourselves as a community, is do we just take the word of the government in relation to important cases where people's deprivation of liberty are at stake? And that's a question we need to ask ourselves, and one which I think that we need to think very seriously about as a community because of the implications.
We should say it's actually judges, isn't it? The government have employed the judges have reached this decision, and indeed it is judges that will review this decision. But if you were trying to now make the case before the appeal court, who I understand are going to be looking again about whether some limited form of access should be granted, what case would you make? What points would you make to them?
I would say, well, I haven't got all the facts of the case before me, and
none of us do.
And neither do I have the government's submissions in the case, so it's very difficult for me to argue specific points in relation to this case. But as I said, what I would be putting forward to the government, the court, and also to those making submissions on behalf of the government, is please give us clear, justified reasons as to why all of the trial, everything about the trial, the fact there is a trial, the accusations against the accused, and any potential outcome of the trial cannot be made public. Okay. Why it isn't the case that specific parts, yes, could be kept in private, well, everything. And without the facts of the case before me, it's very difficult for me to say what I would actually submit before the court.
Yasmine Ahmed, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you so much.
plans.